Hello everyone, my name is Sydney Poorbaugh. For my topic, I chose prenatal pregnancy visits. I believe that people should be going in for their recommended 3 prenatal visits, and in the state of Alaska, we do have about 25% of women who aren't meeting this recommended number, which is why I chose this as my topic because prenatal visits allow for prevention and early detection and overall just a healthy birthing process. The purpose of my health education campaign is to increase the awareness of prenatal pregnancy visits in the Matanuska-Susitna Borough by educating the population about the importance of prenatal visits. I chose the Matsu Borough because Alaska is such a huge state. It's going to be very hard to encompass the whole state with just a pilot project and only $2,000. So I'm looking at just the Matsu Borough, and I want to see if I can increase the education and the awareness of prenatal visits just in that area, and hopefully later on we can expand it throughout the entire state of Alaska. So my target population is of course expectant mothers, because these are the people who are going to be having the child. They are the ones who have to deal with the complications or problems that might arise, and they are the ones who have to make the decision of whether to go and get a prenatal visit. So for me, I'm looking at the Matsu Borough specifically. So I'm going to just be looking at mothers in that area. I won't be looking outside of that area for this pilot project. I'm going to be talking about recommended visits. I want mothers to know that 3 prenatal visits is the recommended amount that each mother should get. However, mothers usually only get 1 visit before the birth. And this is really sad because, yes, that 1 visit is good, but lots of times complications can occur later down the line. And if you're not going in for those 3 visits, you're not going to know about them until it's too late. I also want to educate mothers about disease prevention. So if you go to the recommended prenatal visits, it's likely that you can catch things early on. So let's say you as a mother have a certain disease and you are aware that you have it. That's great. You know you have it. But do you know if it can be transferred to your child? Do you know if it can be prevented? Do you know what you can do to prevent that? And you're not going to find that out unless you go in for those prenatal visits and tell your doctor, I have this disease, I don't want it to contract my child, what can I do? On the other hand, there's plenty of mothers who have no clue they have a disease, and they go in for their prenatal checkup, and they find out you have this disease, it could be transferred to your child, but since you're here at a prenatal visit, we can prevent that. As long as you keep coming back for your next 2, we can keep checking up on you and make sure that it's getting along. Prenatal visits are also great for early detection. You can see early on how your baby is doing, how they're growing, if there's going to be any complications during the birth. And those prenatal visits, as long as you go to all 3, you're going to see during the trimesters how the baby is progressing and how you are doing as a mother. In the picture I have over here to the right, there's a doctor here doing an examination on a pregnant mother. And you can see up on the screen that the baby is there and she's examining it. And this is what you do at prenatal visits. You go in and they run the examination and they look at the baby and see if it's healthy and they see if you're healthy. And now because you're there, they can say, oh, the baby's growing good, you're going to be good, let's check you in a couple months and you're good to go. Or they can see, oh, the baby's not situated right, we need to do something to get him flipped around so that the birthing process is going to be easier on you. And that's what prenatal visits allow for. So of course there's many ways that I can address this issue of prenatal health care. I could do increasing transportation. I could send out rural physicians. I could do education. I could do advertisement. And because this is only a pilot project, I am focusing on advertisement and education. It's impossible for me to hit all those points with only $2,000. So I am starting with education. I want to do this through advertisement. I hope to hand out flyers, post them in hospitals, do them in the school system. I want to increase awareness that prenatal visits are beneficial for the mother and the child. That first one that you do in the first trimester is not enough. You need to keep going back in the second and third trimesters to make sure that baby is growing healthy and that there's not going to be any complications. I want to let people know that there are benefits of prenatal health care visits. Those prenatal visits are going to allow you to be more comfortable with the process. They're going to allow you to gain a relationship with your doctor, and therefore you'll feel more comfortable when you have the baby. And you'll just feel more healthy because you know, I know what to expect. I know what's going to happen because I went in for these visits and they told me everything that's going on. Whereas if you don't go in for those visits, you're kind of just going at it blindly because you don't know what's going to happen. I also want to do some education through talk shows. I hope to maybe host them during conferences or during the school system or even during little videos on Facebook. You have people all the time who go on Facebook and just watch little videos waiting for a class to start or waiting for that doctor visit. And if I have a little awareness video on prenatal health care, it's likely that they'll watch it just to pass the time. And then maybe they will learn something. And then when they become a mother, or maybe they already are a mother, they'll realize, hey, these prenatal visits are a big deal. Specifically in Alaska, we have a lot of young mothers. You have a lot of girls who will get pregnant while they are in high school, which is why I really think that I should implement my campaign into the school system. I think having a class or an education program on prenatal health care would be great during high school. You have a lot of girls, 15, 16, 17, 18, that are going to get pregnant at that young age, and that's okay. And it's good for them to know about prenatal health care because, especially if you're a young adult, you may not know. You might be all on your own doing this. And so if you have it in your school system, you're going to see it just while you're taking like sex ed or health education. And it's going to be one of the topics in the book. Or I could use it as flyers around the school or a little talk show once a year at the school that everyone has to attend. And if students go to these talk shows or these educational fairs, they're going to see how important prenatal health care is. And now if they don't get pregnant in high school, that's fine. They're going to go on to become mothers later on, or maybe they won't even become mothers, but they have that material with them. That way, if they do become a mother later on, they have that information. Or if they adopt a child and their child then becomes a mother, they can pass on that information to their child. So I think implementing it into the school system at a young age is really beneficial, especially for Alaska. Over here on the right is just a little fact that I found. So mothers who do not get prenatal care are 3 times more likely to have a low birth weight baby, and they are 5 times more likely to have a baby that dies. So especially here in Alaska, you hear all the time about how babies don't make it through the first year because of birth complications, they didn't have early detection, they didn't go to their prenatal visits. And if you go to those prenatal visits, you're going to have a healthier baby, and your baby's going to have a healthy life. And I think that's really important to stress to mothers. So in order to get my program started, I'm going to need some partners. And I looked at these 4 groups over here as hopefully they'll be willing to help me with my program. So the first one is public health nurses. These are nurses that travel all over the state of Alaska, and they provide health care to people who are in need of it or who can't get to it. And these would be ideal to my program because while I'm only looking at the Madanuska-Susitna borough, and while that borough is pretty situated in the middle of Alaska, there are people who may not have a car, or maybe they don't have the money to get to the hospital, or maybe they don't know about prenatal health care. And then I can send out these public health nurses, and hopefully they can go and treat those people and educate them and let them know how important prenatal health care is. The state legislator is also an important partner. If my pilot project is successful and I do increase awareness of prenatal health care and there's an increase in prenatal health care visits, I'm going to need more funding to keep continuing education, maybe providing transportation, and rural physicians. And where am I going to get that funding? Well, that's when I would turn to the state legislator and be like, hey, this program really worked. We've increased prenatal visits. Can you help me continue to expand it across the state of Alaska? To start off with, I'm going to be working with school boards. I stated before that I want to put my program into their education system. I want to start it early on so that high schoolers can learn, hey, this is something that we should be doing. Prenatal visits are important. And even if they don't get pregnant during that time, they're going to have that information as they grow older for whenever they do decide to have a child. And finally, I'm going to be working with hospital organizations. I'd like to be able to go into these places and hang flyers on prenatal visits, let people know how important they are, and that the recommended number is 3 prenatal visits. And maybe when mothers come in for just their first checkup, they'll see these signs and realize, hey, I should be coming in 2 more times, not just this one time. And I'm hoping that will increase overall the rate of prenatal visits, and we'll have healthier babies, healthier births, and healthier mothers. And for anyone that's interested, these are my references. This is where I got all my information. You are welcome to go click the links and learn what I learned, or just read a little bit more into it. They're all here for you to use.